And tell me, how did you get into doing this?
So I met a shoemaker about 13 years ago, doing some grassroots training. So I wanted to retire, but not before he'd actually found some people to kind of, pass his knowledge and skills on to. And I was one of those lucky individuals.
That's brilliant,
and then,
isn't it?
So we did, that was in London. We started off with a small workspace and a shoe shop, and you could come in and get a custom pair of shoes.
And had you had any training in it before
None
that?
at all. So I was totally, went in.
Had you done any leather work or anything?
None at all.
Oh,
no.
Right, okay.
No, I come from more of a kind of fine art background,
Okay.
but liked working, visually and with my hands, so it's kind
yeah.
of like a nice fit.
Yeah.
But fell into it purely by chance, but then discovered something I really have a keen, a big passion for. So worked with them for about 3 years, and then the business grew, and we opened up factories, and I was able to learn on the job, like a kind of working apprentice.
Yeah.
And then started to form my own ideas about what I'd like to do in footwear. Went on to start doing my own bespoke custom shoes.
Oh, right.
And then have worked on projects for London Fashion Week, doing collections for that. And then my work sort of as a cobbler only started about 2 years ago. Sort of seeing how many shoes are being made and produced, and often just for kind of made to go on sale immediately, or not designed to be lasting and have quality. So doing repairs felt more natural to me, and just trying to be a bit more conscious about the energy impact and the waste that the footwear industry creates. No one really talks about it. It's kind of like it's hidden away in factories in Europe and Asia, and it's all a bit of a kind of a dark secret. So having had experience in the industry, I can now bring that and start spreading the message about what's going on and trying to encourage people in hopefully a fun way about repair, because we seem to have sort of lost that over the years.
Yeah, definitely.
But now people seem really keen to repair, for various reasons, ecological, financial, ethical, etc. So I think it's a good time to
kind of tagline that we've been doing on things like buy once, buy well.
Buy once, buy well is a very good one. Exactly.
And then part of that is to repair along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
and people get very attached emotionally to their shoes.
Yes.
So they may not want to get rid of something, or it might be inconvenient to go and find something. The high streets, there aren't as many shoe shops now, so it's not quite as easy. So holding on to something might be more cost effective, greener, and just you keep the memory.
And and if you've had a good quality shoe, it's molded to your feet, and that can take you, to get that. If you've had that, you just don't want to give those up. I've got a pair of sandals that I can't part with, even though they're absolutely on their last legs. But it's just they've really moulded around my feet now. Yeah. So, but
And the quality seems to drop as well over time.
Coming and repaired, unfortunately.
No, I could do anything.
Okay.
No shoe left behind.
No shoe left behind. Oh, that's a good one. I like that. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, but lots of I noticed, having had a making skill and a shoe design experience as well, I can take on a lot more complex jobs than someone who's just been trained to repair. Because sometimes you need to get quite creative, or you need the confidence and the skill set in order to be able to tackle a more complex job.
Yes, because that would come less of a repair than a remake almost.
Exactly, like restoration.
Restoration.
Exactly, So we do those sorts of jobs. I've got also small, quick fixes too. Yeah. Or something more involved.
Yeah.
So it's kind of my path has changed from when I started thinking, I was a designer maker, and if I met someone and they said, "Oh, you're a cobbler," I would say, "I'm not a cobbler."
Yes.
That's a dirty word for some reason. I had a stigma about it too, because I wasn't in the as a younger individual, I wasn't in that zone. But now it feels quite authentic to be offering that service.
I think when you have learned and come and learn from real craftspeople the skills that go into these things, you can then appreciate the art and design that goes into something that other people are seeing as just a technical repair. Actually, it's improvisation, it's understanding how the shoe works, how the shoe fits, and it's understanding that there is quite a big creative process, even in taking something and just getting it back to
Yeah.
wearability
Yeah,
and,
totally.
and aesthetic as well.
Yeah, it's problem solving,
Yeah.
and it's always slightly different.
Yeah.
But if you don't know how the shoes fit together, it could be quite
Challenging.
difficult to know a good
Yeah.
way to put it back together. And sometimes you have to get quite creative with the
Yes.
solution, but that's also fun because then you have a unique product that doesn't look
Yes.
like it did when it came off the production line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think people respond well to that as
Yeah.
well.
And I think if you've got things like the patina of the leather that you've had over the years, that's not something you can just go into a shop and buy right there and then.
Exactly, yeah.
So you're, oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So have you got an example of, like, if you were to have, say somebody bought something in, what's the kind of process that you do? How do you kind of assess what needs doing on the
So
shoe?
usually the first question is it worth it?
Yes.
So we have to discuss cost and value.
Yes.
For some people it is just a financial thing.
Yeah.
So if you're buying an inexpensive shoe, 30, 40, 50 pounds, and it's quite battered, if you know it's falling apart, investing another £30 in it may not be cost effective. So you sort of have to find
an absolute favourite.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
So it's having a conversation with the customer to find out, what they're prepared to spend. Will it be worth it? And what they can expect in terms of longevity from the repair. And then other people just are so attached to something they're happy to pay whatever it takes. So then you have to look at how long it's going to take, the materials, the complexity, and even that's quite tricky at times because you don't know what you're going to find until you start to take it apart. But then if you've started to take it apart already, there's no going back. So it's kind of there's a sort of what's the word? Negotiation that happens, and then trying to find the best solution, and also and understanding that people may not want to, or they may not be able to afford to, so you might have to then sort of bring that back from the ideal repair to say, well, we can do this one instead, which is more cost effective. Yes. And then and then it's up to them to decide if that's right for them.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough, and it also means people appreciate your process in terms of what you would need to do to make an ideal repair.
But having shoes made overseas quite often, and it being done in large volume in factories, people have very little understanding now of how they're made and the complexity that goes into it. So, some people are a little bit shocked. Others are, they're happy to pay what it costs. To do it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think there's been a big detachment from a lot of these everyday kind of craft skills that people, sort of 30 years ago, people would have known a lot more, and it would have been much more common to take your shoes in to be repaired.
Absolutely,
you knew your cobbler, you knew that person in the village,
Or you might even do it out sole stitching machine, stitching on leather soles onto kind of traditional low, non-high heel footwear. So this is industrial grade stitching, sort of more old, traditional way of attaching soles to shoes. A lot of them are cemented now with glues and adhesives, but this is kind of the traditional technique of stitching. And then this is a sole press, so this has a compressor and the pads, and when you glued your shoe, you press it down, and that helps cement the bond between the upper and the sole.
Compression. So it's,
compression, exactly.
So you squeeze all the air out as well. And
you're basically just getting the strongest contact between the upper and the sole. Because you can also hit it with a hammer against something, but this will then, you can leave it in there for longer. And
is that what those metal tripods? Oh, like those,
So either a metal shoe last, so that gives you a solid base to strike the hammer against the sole to compress it, or this is what you might have had at home back in sort of mid-century when you were...
my grandma had about 4.
So attaching nails into soles, which is slightly less common now, but you need something very tough and rigid in order to get it. You find them in kitchens. All the machines that I've acquired from retired cobblers over the years, so you can scour second-hand markets, but they're all more or less the same design. If you were to buy them new, they are second-hand.
It feels like they've got that history to them, with the fact that people have used them with people.
Many thousands of pairs of shoes have been through, but they're still going strong. And then this machine is for roughing and for shaping the edge of soles.
Right, okay.
So before you use the adhesive, you need to make sure that it's clean. And it has a rough surface, clean. and as much surface area as possible
Yeah.
the glue to adhere to.
Yes, yes.
And then once you've actually again attached the sole, you might have to trim areas around it.
Oh, yes.
So then the roughing band will allow you to smooth off the edges.
Ah, okay.
To
So
get
you're
a nice
making it
finish.
right to shape.
A nice smooth.
Yeah.
Oven, so the glue is heat activated,
Right.
and then you use heat and pressure to get the best bond between the upper and the sole.
Oh.
So you can glue up your sole and then allow the glue to cure.
Yeah.
Then you reactivate it with heat, and then you put it in the press. And it also means that when you're coming to repair a shoe, you can put the shoe in the oven, it'll heat up, and then the glue is softer, and you can peel the sole off.
Ah.
So it makes repairing a little bit easier.
Of course.
With the outsole stitcher, it's much more labour intensive because you've got to unpick, many tens of stitches, and then re-stitch it on. So.
And I presume people stitch and glue a lot of the time.
Exactly, yeah, you'd want to do both. These are new outsoles on some not particularly expensive shoes, but we're putting new rubber parts on there because the other ones are degraded, and so I'm just going to be trimming around. I've already bonded it and pressed it, and now I'll be trimming it and then smoothing it to make it look pretty.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, just trying to make it as sympathetic as possible.
Yeah.
So a few stages of different finishing.
But you end up with something you can barely see where it kind of is.
Well, thank you.
So
that's the aim.
That's the aim. That's so cool.